Okay, reflection for the last 3 weeks, Nigel, must have been frustrating after the break and coming back the last few weeks. How would you assess it then?
It's been very disappointing. We can't hide from that fact. Obviously started with the Edinburgh game. That was a game that was there for us to take. I felt we were the better team, but in the previous 2 games against Leinster, we've come out second best by a long way. Part of the reason was we weren't really on top of our game, either with or without the ball. And when you play against teams of that quality, if you're a couple of % off, that's what's going to happen to you. And we found out. We found that out. It was a big experience for a lot of our younger players, and that will stand them in good stead moving forward. But unfortunately, at this moment in time, we weren't good enough.
How was that affected your season as a whole, would you say, the last few weeks?
Well, it hasn't helped things, but at the end of the day, when you sit and look at where we are, we've got a big job to do in the Magners in terms of getting ourselves up the table. We're not dead in Europe yet. There's still all to play for with an Irish and Breve away. Not only could we mathematically still qualify, but certainly we could get that second spot, which then puts you in the quarter-final of another competition. So there's still a lot to play for in that competition. And of course we're in a strong position in the LV Cup. So there's a lot of rugby to be played. What we've spoken about this week is not worrying or looking too far ahead. We've got to take every game as it comes, and we've got 2 massive games coming up now over the Christmas period, and obviously the Ospreys game, if ever there needed to be added significance, there certainly is.
In terms of playing Ospreys, your local rivals, in front of a full house here, probably the best way to sort of... really excited about that. It'll probably be the first time that we've had a full house in a competitive fixture, and it'll be great to see what the atmosphere is going to be like here. We've had some big games already, but not with a full house, and the boys are really looking forward to it. What we've said to them as well, we were obviously very disappointed with our last 2 performances in particular. We've got to put that behind us because we've got a big job to do on Boxing Day, and with the amount of support coming here, we've got to give them something to cheer about. What was the injury situation at the moment coming in on the weekend? Who's out, who's in, or who's sort of 50-50?
There's no change really from last week in terms of the injury. Just about everybody who was involved last week is still available. We're obviously picking up little knocks, but nothing too serious at this moment in time.
The corresponding fixture last year, you tinkered a bit, you went down there, you put it was a decent performance and a decent result down there, but obviously you've got the 2 games. Yeah. Are you actually in that luxury this season with your injury list at the moment? No,
we're not really. We're pretty bare at the moment in terms of our squad, but having said that, I'm reasonably happy with the players that we've got available to us. This fixture is more than about individuals. It's a massive game in its own right, and it's all about passion and pride, and the team that wants to win it the most will win it.
2 games in 5 days though, you're pretty much going in with what you've got, you don't have much to rotate or anything like that. Big ask, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a big ask. We'll obviously look at the situation as we move forward. One thing that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks is trying to give our players as much recovery as possible, realising that it is a pretty hectic period. Injuries will probably have an effect in terms of selection. But we, as I said, like we take in the rugby, we'll take 1 day at a time. We can't really do anything about what's gone, but we can certainly affect the future. But we've got to look at it, as I say, 1 game at a time.
Do you prioritise the games? Because some teams will say, look, we need to win that one maybe more than the other one due to the table.
No, we need to win both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, you're not out of Europe yet, Nigel, and so you're not going to give up on it. But is it fair to say after the last couple of games, your focus has perhaps changed a little bit, and there's more emphasis now on the Magners League than there was before? Possibly. I think you might be right in saying that, but we still want to be competitive in everything that we're in, and the Magners League is very important, particularly with the change to the qualification this year, for obvious reasons. Yeah, because obviously the 2 Leinster games would have taken on a great priority, and now all of a sudden you look at things and Europe looks difficult, and then look at the Magners League and that's not looking too pretty either. So I suppose Magners League is something you've got to identify, isn't it, at the moment?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned just with the signings, just on another thing, you've got Matthew Rees as one of your sort of showpiece players, he's one of your Lions, he's one of your Welsh stars. In terms of the other guys who you consider maybe your senior professionals, what is the current situation with maybe say like your David Lyons or your Stephen Jones? Are they ongoing, or what are their contract situations?
I think I don't really want to talk about that, because I think the key thing for today is about those 4 players. You know, and more announcements will come, and I don't want anything to overshadow that fact, and that's the story today. You know, from our point of view.
Okay, no problem. Maybe not spoken about individuals then, but you've still got a job to do in terms of recontracting.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and as I say, I think the process is very clear. You know, we've got a set budget that we have to work within. The first thing is to prioritise the guys out of contract who we want to maintain, which is what we've done. And while that is going on, there's obviously lots of other negotiations, whether it be with existing players within the squad or players externally. So, you know, that process is ongoing. But this is the significant story really today, is the signing of those players.
What about the Ospreys then? Because I think it's fair to say you're going into this game maybe at the opposite end of the spectrum. The Ospreys have won 3 games and you've maybe lost your last 3 games. They're getting players back from injury, some of their top players, where you've still got some of your top players out. Would that make them favourites down here, do you think? Or?
Probably, you know, I think with the squad they've got, they'll always be favourites at the moment. But again, this is a local derby. And you know, in my experience of local derbies, form doesn't count for that much. And as I said, it's really about the passion and the pride, and who wants it the most. Obviously you have to have quality as well on the field. I think we've got enough quality in our team, but it's going to be it should be a smashing game. You know, both sides will be desperate to win it for their supporters, and you know, it's an absolute great fixture. And in this period and time where it's difficult to get crowds, you know, there are certain fixtures that still pull in the crowds, and this is one.
Talking about form around of the window, then how important are the crowd going to be for you, do you think?
Extremely important, absolutely important. And what we've got to do, which we failed to do really against Leinster, is give them something to shout about early on. But I'm sure they'll be in good spirit, and we've got to make sure that we produce on the field for them.
Do you feel you owe them something then after the last 2 results?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think the one thing we've tried to do is reconnect with our support this year. I think we've started to do that. I think they're understanding of where we are and what we're trying to do with this group. But at the end of the day, you know, that will only be reflected by our performances on the field, and that's what's key, is that we put those performances in, and that will give our crowd something to shout about and get excited about. And you know, that's what they want, and that's what we have to do.
What's the minimum, final question for me, Nigel, what's the minimum, maximum you want from this period, given the fact that you've got 3 Magners League games, including the one in January and the weekend?
Yeah. Listen, as I said, we're going to take every game as it comes. Because if you look at the big picture, you can tend to lose your focus on where you need to be. This is a home game, it's against our arch rivals. You just got to win the game.
Okay. Great finish for me.
Thanks, great.
Cheers.
Thank you, mate.